It's the best real-life example you've seen of the saying, give the hardest job to the laziest person because they'll find the easiest way to do it. At our tech company, upper management couldn't figure out why it took 3 hours to process customer refunds. They hired consultants, conducted studies, and wasted months trying to optimize the system. Meanwhile, Oscar, our office's most notorious slacker, handled refunds in between his Netflix marathons and 2-hour lunch breaks. One day, our CEO came storming into the office. A high-profile client was threatening legal action over a delayed $50,000 refund. He pointed at Oscar, who was half asleep at his desk. You, process this refund immediately. Everyone expected disaster. Oscar barely looked up from his phone and mumbled, give me 5 minutes. The CEO stood there, face getting redder by the second. But exactly 4 minutes later, Oscar announced, done. The CEO checked his phone. The client had already confirmed receipt. That's when all hell broke loose. The head of operations demanded to know how Oscar had processed a refund in minutes when their optimized system took hours. Oscar just shrugged and said, I wrote a script that automates everything. Turns out, while everyone else was following the 47-step refund procedure, Oscar had spent one afternoon coding a program that did it automatically. He'd been using it for months, finishing his work in minutes while pretending it took hours so he could watch YouTube videos. The CEO was furious, not at Oscar but at everyone else. You're telling me this kid solved a problem that's cost us millions in lost clients and consulting fees just because he was too lazy to do it the hard way? Management called an emergency meeting. They made Oscar demonstrate his script, which revealed how ridiculously overcomplicated our system was. His program bypassed 30 unnecessary approval steps, 4 redundant verification processes, and 3 separate departments. The next day, Oscar got called into the CTO's office. Instead of being fired for bypassing protocols, they offered him a promotion to head a new automation department. His first project? Finding other inefficient processes to streamline. Oscar accepted on 3 conditions. He could work from home, have flexible hours, and keep his mini fridge. The company agreed instantly. Within 6 months, his team of self-proclaimed lazy programmers had automated 70% of our manual processes. But here's where it gets interesting. The other departments started sabotaging Oscar's projects. They'd intentionally break his automated systems and claim they were unreliable. People were terrified his efficiency improvements would make their jobs obsolete. Oscar didn't even bother fighting back. He just called another meeting and pulled up a screen showing every employee who deliberately corrupted his code, along with timestamps and their digital fingerprints. He'd automated the process of catching people who tried to break his automation. The saboteurs got fired, but Oscar hired them all for his team. They're smart enough to hack my systems, he said, but too lazy to do it without leaving traces. Perfect combination. 3 years later, our company's processing times are down 90%. Oscar's department has saved the company $50 million in operational costs. He still takes 2-hour lunches and watches Netflix at his desk. But now he does it while his automated systems handle work that used to take hundreds of people. Last month, a rival company offered Oscar triple his salary to jump ship. He declined by sending an automated response. Writing resignation letters is too much work. The CEO immediately doubled his pay and added a second mini fridge to his office. Yesterday, I overheard our CFO complaining that Oscar's entire department seems to do nothing all day. The CEO just laughed and said, last quarter, their nothing saved us more money than every other department combined. 6 months after this conversation, I was sitting in the lunchroom when Oliver, one of Oscar's original saboteurs, rushed in with his face completely drained of color. It's happening, he stammered, gripping the back of a chair.
Now comment update to tag you on part 2.
The board finally caught on. Turns out our parent company had noticed what Oscar's department was doing. They wanted to replicate the model across all their subsidiaries. The only problem? They needed Oscar to personally oversee implementing automation in 17 different companies across the country. Remote work and flexible hours weren't gonna cut it for a nationwide efficiency overhaul. Oscar's gonna flip, Oliver muttered. He literally built a system to order food delivery without picking up his phone. They're asking him to travel. The emergency board meeting was scheduled for 3 p.m. Word spread fast. People were placing bets on whether Oscar would quit or accept what everyone was calling the nightmare promotion. His current salary was rumored to be around $80K plus stock options. The new position? $500K base, plus unlimited travel budget and executive benefits. At 2:55, Oscar strolled into the boardroom wearing his signature outfit, faded jeans, company t-shirt from 2019, and those beat-up sneakers he'd been rocking since day one. The board members, all in their pristine suits, shifted uncomfortably. Our CEO tried explaining the opportunity, how Oscar could revolutionize their entire corporate structure, save hundreds of millions, transform the industry. Oscar listened for exactly 3 minutes, then interrupted. Counteroffer. I'll build you a system that can implement automation anywhere, automatically, but I'm not leaving this building. The board members exchanged confused glances. You want us to pay you $500,000 to build something that replaces your own travel? $500,000, Oscar corrected. Plus I get to hire a team of 20, full creative control, and unlimited budget for R&D. He yawned dramatically. The alternative is you spend the next 5 years trying to manually replicate what I did here, probably screw it up, and waste billions in the process. The CFO, who'd been calculating furiously on his iPad, looked up with wide eyes. The projected savings from implementing your system company-wide would exceed $2 billion annually. He turned to the board. At this scale, any delay costs us millions. Per day. Oscar leaned back in his chair, feet up on the conference table. Clock's ticking. I got a Netflix series to finish. 10 minutes later, Oscar had his deal. But the real kicker came when they asked how soon he could start building this automated implementation system. He pulled out his phone, tapped the screen a few times, and said, "Already done. I built it last year when I got bored during the Christmas party." The head of HR nearly choked. "You're telling us you've had a multi-billion-dollar solution sitting on your laptop this whole time?" "Not my laptop," Oscar grinned. "Company server. Files called definitely not important exe. Been testing it on our system for months. That's how we've been so efficient." The next week, Oscar rolled up to work in a brand new Tesla. When I asked him about the fancy car, he just shrugged. "Needed something comfortable for my 5-minute commute to the office parking lot. Plus, autopilot lets me watch shows during the drive." His new team started arriving the following Monday. 20 of the most notorious lazy employees from across the company's branches. People who'd been written up for sleeping at their desks, who'd spent more time building elaborate systems to avoid work than actually working. Oscar had handpicked each one based on efficiency potential. The first hire was Mila, who'd been fired from accounting for rigging the photocopier to automatically scan and sort documents. "They called it unauthorized modifications," she explained over coffee. "I called it not standing at a copier for 4 hours. Then came Blake, who'd figured out how to automatically generate weekly status reports by scraping emails for keywords. His system was so good, his manager nominated him for Employee of the Month without realizing the reports were completely automated. By month 3, Oscar's laziness labs had transformed from a joke to the most valuable division in the company. They weren't just automating